Hello children, we can see everything which are around us. We can hear every sound. We can speak whenever we want. But there are many people who can't see, hear or speak. Today we are going to learn about Helen Keller, who was also a blind and deaf person, and how she, despite of being blind and deaf, learned to speak and write. Children, Helen Keller was only 19 months old when illness left her blind and deaf. So she struggled to understand the world around her until she found a gifted teacher who became her lifelong companion. She was the first deaf and blind person to obtain a Bachelor of Arts degree. Children, before moving to a lesson, we will learn some word meanings that you will come across in the story. This will help you to understand this story well. Clung, held on tight. What's the meaning of clung? Held on tight. You can see the picture of this little girl, how she is holding her mother tightly. Object, thing. What's the meaning of object? Thing. You can see the pictures of different objects. Objects means things. Pencil, apple, book, etc. Noted every movement, felt things as they moved. What's the meaning of noted every movement? Felt things as they moved. Crude, very simple. What's the meaning of crude? Very simple. Imitate, copy by saying or doing the same thing. What's the meaning of imitate? Copy by saying or doing the same thing. You can see the pictures of these little kids who are imitating their parents. Now let us move to the lesson. Lesson number 9, Helen Keller learns to speak. Helen Keller was born in 1880 in America. When she was a little more than a year old, an illness left her both blind and deaf. But she not only learned to read and speak, but also went to college. This text from her book, The Story of My Life, tells us how she got over some of her difficulties. Helen Keller was born in America in the year 1880. This story, which we are going to read, is taken from her autobiography, The Story of My Life. Children, here we will learn how Helen Keller, despite of being both blind and deaf, learned to read and speak by overcoming all the difficulties in her life. Now, let us move to next lines. I cannot remember what happened during the first months after my illness. I only know that I sat in my mother's lap or clung to her dress as she went about her work at home. My hands felt every object and noted every movement. In this way, I learned many things. Children, the narrator of this story is Helen Keller herself. So here, I refers to Helen Keller. In this story, she narrates about her early struggles and the difficulties that she had to face due to her illness. Children, she says that she couldn't remember anything about the first months after her illness, but she remembers that she used to sit on her mother's lap and she holds her mother's dress tightly when her mother moved about in the house to do her work. Helen Keller could feel every object and even noted every movement of the thing. In this way, she learned many things. Now let us move to next lines. Soon I began to make crude signs. A shake of the head meant no, and a nod yes. A pull meant come, and a push go. If I wanted bread, I would imitate the way we cut slices of bread and buttered them. So soon she started making crude signs. Crude signs means simple signs. If she wanted to say no, she used to shake her head. For years, she used to move her head up and down. She used to pull in order to call someone. And her push means to go. She also used to imitate, that means copy the way we cut the bread and buttered them in order to indicate that she wanted bread. Now let us move to next lines. I do not remember when I first knew that I was different from other people, but I had noticed that my mother and my friends did not use signs as I did when they wanted anything done but talked with their mouths. Sometimes I stood between two persons who were talking and touched their lips, but it did not work. This made me so angry at times that I kicked and screamed until I was tired. Helen Keller did not exactly remember the time when she first came to know that she was different from others. She noticed that her mother and her friends did not use signs while they were talking, as she did. It was very difficult for her to accept this. So she used to touch the lips of persons who were talking. But it was no use because she could not do the same. This made her very angry. So she used to kick and scream until and unless she used to get tired. Before moving to our next lines, we will learn some more word meanings. It did not work. This way did not help Helen. Speak my thoughts. Say what I was thinking. What's the meaning of speak my thoughts? Say what I was thinking. What is printed word stood for? That means what each word meant. What's the meaning? What is printed word stood for? What each word meant. Slips, small pieces of paper or cardboard. You can see the pieces of paper in this picture. What's the meaning of slips? Small pieces of paper or cardboard. Raised letters, words printed in such a way that they can be felt on paper by people who cannot see. You can see the raised letters on this paper. This is called Braille. Braille, printing with raised round marks which blind people can read by touching. You can see the letters, Braille letters here. Blind people can understand these raised letters by touching with their fingers. Now let us move to next lines. The most important day in all my life was just before I turned 7. It was the day my teacher and Mansfield Sullivan came to me. For Helen, the day before her 7th birthday was the most important day in her life because on that day her gifted teacher and Mansfield Sullivan came to visit her. Now let us move to next lines. From the beginning, Miss Sullivan spoke to me as she would speak to any child who could hear. The only difference was that she wrote the words on my hand instead of speaking them. If I did not know the words to speak my thoughts, she gave them to me. This went on for several years. Miss Sullivan, Helen's teacher, helped her to overcome the problem which she faced due to her illness. Her teacher used to talk to her in the same way she used to talk to any other child. But the only difference was that her teacher used to write the words on Helen's hands instead of just speaking them. Whenever she felt short of words to express her feelings, her teacher gave that words to her. Now let us move to next lines. The next important step was learning to read. As soon as I could spell a few words, my teacher gave me slips of cardboard. On those were printed words in raised letters. I quickly learnt what each printed word stood for. When Miss Sullivan was successful in teaching Helen to speak, now it was time for her to learn reading. As she was able to spell a few words, her teacher gave her small slips of paper on which words were printed in such a way that it could be read by Helen by touching those words by her finger. She learned very quickly those words and their meanings. Now let us move to next lines. I then had to find the slips of cardboard and place them on the right object. For example, the words doll and bed. Then I had to put my doll on the bed with the words is, on and bed placed beside the door. Doll. Thus, I made a sentence with the words. After learning the words, Helen learned to make sentences by framing the words in correct order. For example, in order to learn the words doll and bed, she had to put her doll on the bed with the words is, on and bed to make the complete sentence. Now let us move to next lines. I soon moved on to reading printed books in raised type or braille. I always searched for the words I knew. I could not speak because I could not hear. And so I would sit on my mother's lap all day long and feel the movements of her lips. I had forgotten what talking was and I made many sounds. Children, Helen soon started reading printed books which were written in Braille. Braille means the words were printed with raised round marks which the blind people can read by touching with their fingers. Helen always searched for the words which she knew. She couldn't speak because she couldn't hear. So she used to sit on her mother's lap the entire day and try to feel the movements of her mother's lips. She used to make different sounds because she could not talk. Children, before moving to next lines, we will learn some more word meanings. Broken and stammering sounds, words not fully spoken or spoken with difficulty. What is the meaning? Broken and stammering sounds, words not fully spoken or spoken with difficulty. Human speech, the words that people use when they speak. Human speech, the words that people use when they speak. Now next line, but there was one word I remembered from when I was a child. Water, I pronounced it wa. Later, I had lessons from Miss Fuller. I shall never forget the surprise and delight I felt when I spoke my first old sentence. It is warm. True, they were broken and stammering sounds, but they were human speech. When she was a child, she was able to pronounce the word water as wa. Later, she got a new teacher whose name was Miss Fuller. Children, Helen felt great happiness and was delighted when she spoke her first old sentence, and that sentence was, "It is warm." Children, though she couldn't pronounce the words clearly and had great difficulty in speaking, yet she was very successful in speaking human language. So children, there are many lessons to be learned from this story. One lesson is never give up. Another lesson we learn from this story is work hard, which Helen did to learn to speak and earn a degree. And another important lesson she taught us is that nothing is impossible in this world. Now, let us do the exercises of this lesson. First, answer these questions using the phrases in the box. There are phrases in the box. We can see what are the phrases given here. Did not use signs. Wrote the words on her hand. Surprise and delight. Made crude signs. Come and go. We have to make sentences by using these phrases. First question. How did Helen Keller try to speak at first? Answer. She made crude signs. Crude signs means simple signs to speak at first. Now second. In Helen's sign language, what it is pull and push mean? Answer. A pull meant come and a push meant go. Now third, what did Helen notice about others? She noticed that other people were not using signs while they were talking. Answer. They did not use signs to speak to one another. Fourth one, how did Miss Sullivan speak to Helen? Miss Sullivan wrote the words on her hand to speak to her. Now fifth, when Helen spoke the first old sentence, how did she feel? She felt surprised and delighted. B. Complete the sentences in your own words. First one, Ellen kicked and screamed because she was angry. She couldn't talk like others, so she got angry. So she kicked and screamed. Now second, the most important day in Helen's life was when she met her teacher and Mansfield Sullivan for the first time. Now third, if Helen did not know the words she wanted, Miss Sullivan gave them to her. 4. When she read Braille, Helen always looked for the words she knew. 5. Helen could not speak at first because she could not hear and had forgotten what talking was. Now we will learn about main verbs and auxiliary verbs. Main verbs are also called principal verbs. Auxiliary verbs do not have their own meanings. They are used to help the main verbs in giving the information to the reader. So they are also called helping verbs. Main verbs can be used alone. That means without helping verbs in the sentences. Now let us read these sentences. My hands felt every object. I am touching the objects. My teacher gave me slips of cardboard. She is teaching me words. The verbs in color are main verbs. Am and is are auxiliary verbs. Study the table. Main verbs. See, play, read. Describe an action or a feeling or what is happening. Auxiliary verbs or helping verbs. Forms of the verb be, am, is, are, was, were. Added to the main verb to show time or to form the tense. She is playing with her friends. Here children, main verbs are action words which describe an action or a feeling or what is happening. Auxiliary verbs are being verbs like am, is, are, was, were. For adding to the main verb to show time or to form the tense. Now let us do the exercise. Underline the main verbs and circle the auxiliary verbs in these sentences. First one, I am drawing a picture. In this sentence, am is an auxiliary verb, so circled, and drawing is a main verb, so underlined. Second, grandfather climbed a tree yesterday. In this sentence, there is no auxiliary verb. There is a main verb. Climbed is a main verb. 3. The train is leaving the station. In this sentence, is an auxiliary verb, so circled, and leaving is a main verb, so underlined. 4. They are doing their homework. In this sentence, are is an auxiliary verb, so circled, and doing is a main verb, so underlined. 5. She is sleeping now. In this sentence, is an auxiliary verb and sleeping is a main verb, so underlined. 6. Nimmi and Neetu are fighting. In this sentence, are is an auxiliary verb, so circled, and fighting is a main verb, so underlined. Now let us move to next exercise. B. Complete the second sentence in each pair with an, is, or are. Children, here am is always used with I. That is first person singular. Is used with third person singular. They are he, she, it, and with any single name. Are is used with third person plural. Now let us do the exercise. First, Mala has a test tomorrow. She is studying really hard. Here she is singular, so is used. Now second, I cannot go to school today. I am not feeling well. Here am is used with I. Now 3. Gaurav is over there. He is talking to his friends. Here is used with singular form he. 4. Why don't you join us? We are going for a walk. Here are is used with plural, third form plural. Now 5. Father is on the telephone. He is talking to his brother. Here is used with singular pronoun. Now 6. What are you doing in the kitchen? I am helping my mother. Here, are is used with third form plural and am is used with I. Now, let us do the next exercise. Rewrite these sentences. Replace the words in color with the words from the box. There are some words given in the box. We have to replace these words with the colored words in the sentence. First one, I had seen my mother and other people did not use signs. Here, seen is the colored word. We have to replace with noticed. Now second, if I wanted bread, I would copy the way we cut slices of bread. In this sentence, copy is the colored word. We have to replace this word with imitate. Third, this went on for many years. In this sentence, many is the colored word. We have to replace with several. Now 4. In this way, I made my first sentence. In this sentence, in this way is the phrase. In color, we have to replace this phrase with thus. 5. I soon changed to reading printed books in raised type. In this sentence, changed is the colored word which we have to replace with moved on. Now 6. Some time afterwards, I had lessons from Miss Fuller. In this sentence, some time afterwards is the colored phrase. We have to change this phrase with the word later. Now children, there is a small homework for you. Homework, read the lesson carefully and learn all the exercises. I hope children, this is an interesting story for you. I also hope that you have learned many lessons from this beautiful story of Helen Keller. We will meet you soon with your grammar lesson.